All right, grab a seat and settle in because tonight we're diving into an explainer that is honestly going to completely shatter everything you think you know about trust, perception, and, well, survival. Picture this. It's 11 p.m., you're on a midnight bus speeding down a pitch-black, desolate highway towards Shimla. You're pumped for a fun, romantic getaway. But what starts off as this joyful road trip is about to take a hard, violent nosedive into pure, unadulterated terror. We're going to break down the horrifying mechanics of a very real, very supernatural ambush.
Seriously, I want you to ask yourself, what actually happens when your own eyes just flat out lie to you? Imagine being stranded in a freezing, desolate jungle where reality itself just starts glitching and fracturing around you. The trees, the ground, even the faces of your absolute best friends. You literally can't trust any of it. Because see, this isn't just about some mindless monster lurking in the bushes. We're talking about a psychological predator, something that weaponizes your own mind against you. Let's trace exactly how this nightmare kicks off.
So, it all starts with what I like to call impossible geography. At 11 p.m., the bus zips past this lonely old woman standing by the road. Creepy? Sure, but whatever, you keep moving. But then, just minutes later, miles down the highway, there she is again, standing right there, waiting. And before anyone can even process that, she pops up a third time, only now she's wearing this terrifying, completely unnatural smile. Space and time are already warping. It's the exact moment the safety of that speeding bus is totally shattered.
And right here is where they make the classic, fatal mistake. The passengers get restless and actually force the conductor to pull over right in the middle of this deep, dark jungle for a bathroom break. The group splits up, wandering off into the trees, and almost instantly, boom. Every single mobile phone drops all network connection, gone. Now that sudden loss of signal, that's no coincidence. It is a highly calculated move. The trap is officially set and these folks are now completely, hopelessly isolated.
Okay, so while the real passengers are stumbling around in the woods, absolute chaos is erupting back out on the road. The driver and conductor watch what they think are the passengers climbing back onto the bus. But nobody is speaking. There's just this dead, heavy silence. Then, out of nowhere, the entire group just erupts into this sinister, synchronized laughter. Their faces physically morph into these terrifying demonic masks. And then, they just vanish into thin air. The driver, literally terrified out of his mind, slams on the gas and just bolts into the night, completely abandoning the real passengers in the dark.
For the folks now stranded out in the trees, the psychological torture takes a lethal turn. Take Ishmet, for example. He wanders off because he thinks he's following his girlfriend Neha to this beautiful, pristine pond for a midnight swim. But the second he steps in, the illusion just drops. His feet lock up. It's not a pond at all, it's a deadly, bubbling swamp. And as he's literally sinking into the muck, the fake Neha just bursts into this maniacal laughter, her eyes glowing piercing red right before she vanishes. The illusion was literally a death trap. Meanwhile, the rest of the surviving group makes it back to the road, only to realize the bus is completely gone. Panic is fully setting in. But wait, headlights pierce the dark. It's their bus. But that relief is crushed in a split second when the massive vehicle just blows right past them without even slowing down. And here is the truly sick psychological torture. Inside that phantom bus, as it speeds by, they clearly see their friend Ishmet. He's just staring blankly ahead, completely ignoring their frantic screams. The entity isn't just killing them, it is actively trying to shatter their minds. Right in the middle of all this sheer terror, a tiny glimmer of hope actually shows up, a wandering ice cream seller. I know, weird timing, right? But he delivers this chilling warning. He tells them, "You are standing in an unsafe place. There's a danger of the Chhalawa here. It plays with our minds." He flat out explains that the horrors they're seeing are illusions cast by a dark force. But humans will be humans. Driven by pure arrogance and denial, some of the group just totally brush him off. A massive, fatal miscalculation. Completely ignoring the warning, Riddick and Rhythma make another classic blunder. They split the party. They're exhausted, they're desperate, and they wander deeper into the woods where they spot this little hut. A super friendly, welcoming old man waves them inside, offering them shelter and a hot meal. But listen, as we know with this jungle, comfort is the ultimate red flag. They are walking straight into another meticulously crafted mirage. So they sit down and this sweet old man hands them a plate of food to cure their raging hunger. But as they look down, the illusion glitches for just a fraction of a second. Sitting right there on the plate are two chopped human hands. Instantly, the cozy hut completely dissolves into this filthy, dusty ruin. The
the friendly old man contorts into a hulking monster, laughing like a maniac as Riddick and Redeema run screaming for their lives back into the pitch-black woods.
Fleeing through the trees, they actually think they catch a break, a safe haven. They stumble across a tea stall, and look, their friends are sitting right there, safe and sound. But as they sprint up to them, the comforting faces of their friends violently distort. They morph right back into that horrific old man and a whole flock of demonic entities. They're totally surrounded. The entity just used the faces of the people they love to lure them in for the slaughter. It tears them apart before turning into crows and just scattering into the night sky. Let's jump back to the remaining survivors who have no idea their friends are already dead. They stumble onto what looks like a typical roadside dhaba, but reality is completely glitching now. Check this out. A child begs for tea and gets yelled at. Then 2 men fall off a broken cot and one screams, "Mangru, fix the cot!" And then it just happens again. The exact same sequence flawlessly repeats itself like a skipping record. Finally, every single quote-unquote person at the dhaba stops, turns, and erupts into that same synchronized demonic laughter.
Okay, so what exactly is pulling the strings of this nightmare? Well, in regional lore, we are dealing with a Chhalawa. This is an impure, demonic wind entity that haunts desolate jungles. It possesses an immense, honestly terrifying power to shapeshift and cast these deadly, mind-altering illusions. The most crucial takeaway from this explainer is this. A Chhalawa does not fight you head-on. It doesn't need to. It tricks your brain so flawlessly that you literally walk yourself right into your own grave. When you really break down the anatomy of a Chhalawa attack, it's a chillingly perfect strategy. First, it isolates you in signaled dead zones. Then, it actively feeds on your human desires, like Ishmet wanting romance or Riddick wanting a safe place to sleep, and it builds irresistible mirages out of them. Next, it forces you to blindly walk into lethal natural hazards. And worst of all, it sadistically breaks your mind using demonic doppelgangers of the very people you trust the most. It's brilliant, and it's lethal.
So the survivors are running from the time loop dhaba, their minds literally hanging by a thread. Just when they think they're done for, they bump into the ice cream seller from earlier. He grabs them and says, "I told you to come with me. Now, come to my house." Overwhelming relief, right? But remember the anatomy we just talked about. The entity uses faces you trust. This isn't their savior. The Chhalawa has disguised itself as their only ally and is dragging them in for the final kill. The tension here is just absolutely insane. They are inches away from following this demon into the dark. Suddenly, a voice rips through the trees. "Stop! That is the Chhalawa!" Out of the pitch black steps a second ice cream seller, the real one, and he's gripping a sacred kalash, a traditional pot. Imagine the sheer panic. The group is frozen in terror, caught right between a shape-shifting demon and a man screaming, desperately trying to save their lives. Now here is the wild part. Despite the Chhalawa's literally godlike ability to warp reality, manipulate time, and mimic human beings flawlessly, it actually has exactly one single weakness. Just one. And the real ice cream seller knew exactly what it was. Without this one specific item, escaping the illusion is 100% impossible. The real seller reaches deep into his kalash and yanks out Chandan Ki Luktaki Bas, sacred sandalwood ash. He takes a handful and blows it directly into the air right at the fake seller. Boom! The illusion violently shatters on the spot, and the demonic Chhalawa is instantly banished into the night wind. Turns out, the seller had rushed all the way home just to get this purifying ash. He grabs the traumatized survivors and shelters them until the sun finally comes up, permanently stripping the entity of its power for the night. The survivors did manage to make it back to the city the next morning. But let's be real, those psychological scars, they are never, ever going to fade. 3 of their friends, Ishmet, Gatik, and Redeema, were completely swallowed by the jungle, their lives snuffed out by illusions. So as we wrap up